And for the first time in my life, I just felt very financially unstable. Even saying that on the mic right now is giving me a bit of hives, but I feel like I need to say this because this is the stuff that people don't talk about. Oh, you made $10,000 in a month. You made $15,000 in a month. Okay, cool, but how much did you spend? Oh, the business is doing well, we're making money, we're helping all these people, we're changing all these lives. Okay, cool. But like, what about your finances? For a long time, I struggled with seeing the numbers go up and down in my bank account. And I got convicted so heavy. And I felt God saying, like, who do you think is sustaining you? I was like, This week, we are going to be talking about a topic that is a bit vulnerable. Embarrassments, actually. We're going to be talking about managing your personal finances. Welcome back. Welcome back to the Entrepreneurship Unfiltered podcast. I am your host, Ibiyemi, an entrepreneur who has made a lot of mistakes and is putting it on the internet to help you. I am doing this for two reasons and two reasons only. One, that you are able to see my mistakes and maybe avoid some of those mistakes. And then two, so that you are able to see yourself as still successful, even if you've made mistakes. You are not alone. We're all in this together. This week, we are going to be talking about a topic that is a bit vulnerable. Embarrassments, actually, is there's a lot of shame for me around this topic, which is why I know I need to talk about it. But essentially, we're going to be talking about managing your finances. So we've talked about finances before from like a business standpoint. And what I wanted to talk about is really personal finances. When you work for somebody and you have your 9 to 5, you usually get a paycheck, right? And then you are able to manage your finances independently. When you become an entrepreneur, you may or may not get a paycheck. And that creates a lot of stress and anxiety when it comes to managing your finances. So, background. I have always grown up with a relatively good sense of money. I come from a household where we didn't struggle at all. So I thank God for that. Grew up quite privileged, went to the best schools, had everything I needed basically. Graduated from school, started working a job. I remember hiring a financial advisor immediately after I graduated. I think I was like 21, 22. I had zero money, but I had the sense of mind to like get someone to help me start managing my money. And, I did all the things that he said. I watched all the videos around, saving, investing. I had like an expense account where like my rent and my bills came out of. I had an emergency fund that was fully funded. I had a travel fund. And then I was obviously investing in long-term retirement, and my organization was matching it. So a lot of those things around my personal finances, I was always chill. My mindset around finances was never great. Like, I always used to tell people it's not about the dollars and cents. It's always about the mindset around it. And I think my mindset around finances was always more money, more problems, which, if nobody has told you, that's not a good mindset to have when it comes to money. Even as a Christian, there were so many messages I got around money as well, and having money and using it to, move God's message further. Or you have the other school of thought where it's like Christians shouldn't have money, you should be humble and be lowly, and all those different sort of ideas around how you should be around money. Even tithing, right? And I know this is a big topic, but it was something that I was very used to doing. I paid my tithes and I did it consistently. It wasn't even something that I thought about. So before entrepreneurship, my personal finances, not bad. I could go where I needed to go. So people that know me, I'm not a materialistic girly. I don't buy shoes or bags or all these types of things, but I will get on a flight. I will get on that plane. Yes, very much so. I will book a vacation. I will go by myself. I will experience a new city, right? So, prior to entrepreneurship, I used to travel 6-7 times a year. I know it was expensive, but I had a travel fund, right? I used to pride myself on never being in the same city for my birthday. So since I was like 24, always going somewhere else. So personal finances, doing okay, feeling cool, all of that. And then I became an entrepreneur. And my finances, can I use the word dumpster fire? Because I feel like that is the right word, dumpster fire. And it wasn't always like that, right? Obviously, I just explained the whole background. And for the first time in my life, I just felt very financially unstable, right? Even saying that on the mic right now is giving me a bit of hives. But I feel like I need to say this because this is the stuff that people don't talk about. And it's not because the business isn't making money. It's because as an entrepreneur, when you first start, you're putting a lot into your business. You're paying yourself last, if at all. Or you're paying yourself inconsistently, right? I went from having like a RSP match. So for those that are in the US, like your 401k. So like a pension matching at 100%. My past employer covered like all of my insurance, covered my therapy bills, everything. And all of a sudden I had no insurance. Luckily I was living in Canada, so I didn't need like healthcare, but all the other additional pieces of support that you have from an organization, like the perks, the benefits. I used those benefits. Like my dental, listen, I got my cleanings. I remember I had to have like surgery and it was paid for 100%. Like all these things around my life were comfortable. I wanted to make more money, but I was able to afford my basic day-to-day. And then all of a sudden, like if I didn't come back home to Nigeria and live at home and spend, an extended period of time, then how was I going to actually survive, right? And people don't understand this. They hear the revenue numbers. Oh, you made $10,000 in a month. You made $15,000 in a month. Okay, cool. But how much did you spend? Right? How much did it cost you to make that much? Right? And how are you paying for it? Right? How are you thinking about debt? That was another one. Right? As a business, it costs money to make money. Everybody knows this. As a person, I was not someone that used to use credit, right? I use credit, I pay it back, right? I use it kind of like debit. I use it, I pay it back. And all of a sudden, I'm in an environment where I'm using my credit card to fund certain things in my business and I'm paying it back, but those it's a revolving door, right? And even just the idea of having debt, again, it's normal. Anybody that has been in business, it is normal, right? It actually makes sense. And, luckily I was in Canada. I had access to credit. I had access to lines of credit. I had access to credit cards, loans, all these things, right? I know that a lot of my, Nigerian counterparts, they struggle with capital, right? To even get someone to give you a loan, to give you credit, all of that kind of stuff isn't available. So that being in Canada, I had the privilege of that, but my Nigerianness would not allow me to take debt, right? Just this idea of like carrying something. And then there's this silencing that happens where you don't really want to talk about your personal finances. Oh, the business is doing well, we're making money, we're helping all these people, we're changing all these lives. Okay, cool. But like, what about your finances? Putting stuff together, funding this, like it costs something, right? And one of the mistakes I made was thinking, oh, well, my business is based off of me, right? I'm the product. It's not I'm not selling handbags, so I don't need to order a bunch and do inventory and spend all costs on all of these different things. So it should be free. All I'm paying for is like my Zoom license. Except you start building it up and you realize that, okay, technology is not cheap. And then you need like more time, right? If your time is the only thing that that's technically costing you, you're going to run out of time and energy. So you need to hire other people. Those people need to eat. So you need to pay them. So all of a sudden, you're making money. I was going to say you're losing, but you're not losing. You're spending as well. And that is normal. It's called cash flow, in and out. But for a long time, I struggled with seeing the numbers go up and down in my bank account. I struggled. And then also, even just seeing that much money in my account, right? Remember I said before, more money, more problems. When I was working my 9 to 5, I had investments and savings and all of that kind of stuff, but it was always funneled into a separate account that was managed by my financial advisor, and I never had visibility to it. Like, I would book a call with him once every 6 months to say, how's it going? He'd be like, oh, we increased by another 10K. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, it didn't make any, the numbers on the screen, it didn't connect because I never saw it. And now I'm looking at my business account because I need to pay for X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, whoa, I don't know how to deal with these numbers. I don't feel equipped to I'm like, is someone going to take, it just all these weird, insecurities started coming up about finances and, stewarding it and managing it. And do I pay tithe on my revenue? Do I pay tithe on what I pay myself? Am I even paying myself consistently? That was a big one, right? Paying myself consistently was a big issue. I struggled a lot with that one. I remember my financial advisor literally saying, listen, you cannot stop paying yourself because you're trying to build a business. You still have bills to pay. And I was borrowing from my future, essentially, borrowing from my retirement because I don't want to pay myself consistently. And low-key, high-key, I started to develop resentment. Like, I'm working hard, I'm making money, and it's not coming to me. And every entrepreneur knows this. I literally was scrolling the other day, and it was this girl, and she was like, this video is for entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs only. When do we get to keep the money? And I was like, sis, that part. Because you could be out here grinding, working, hustling, doing all the things that you need to do. You pay your salaries, you pay for your technology, you pay for your licenses, you pay for your coaching, you pay for everything. And then you look at yourself and you're asking questions. Like today is payday for me. It is 12:43 p.m. and I haven't paid myself. Not because the money is not there. Not because I haven't made an agreement that I'm going to pay myself more consistently this year. But because of the voice that's like, what if you need that money? What if another bill comes up? I don't know why I'm getting emotional, but it's actually very overwhelming sometimes. Because, like I said, you're working hard, you're putting in the work, you're helping people, you're making an impact, and your finances are a mess. And I'm not old, but I'm not young. I'm not 25. There are certain things that I thought that I would be at in terms of finances at this age that I'm just not at. Like, I'm literally in like a place of recovery right now. 2025 was such a crazy ass year. I went through so much change in the space of like 6 months. I decided to move back to Nigeria. I don't know how many people know this, but relocating to another country is not cheap. It's not cheap. And literally, like, from the beginning of the year, from the beginning of 2025, I want to say like February, I got hit with a tax bill that was more than what I was planning to pay for. So I'm like, okay, cool. This is why you have reserves. In March, my landlord reminded me that, oh, they had fixed the roofing of something back in 2019, and they were lobbying the government to put that on the tenants, and it finally came through. So now you owe $3,000. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I had my emergency fund. I'm like, okay, cool, that's no problem. Then something else. And all of a sudden it was like my emergency fund, my reserves, my backup, my expense account, like all these things were getting drained. And like, I had two perspectives. On one side, I was like, thank God that I even had all of these things set up. That's what it's for, right? You have an emergency fund because if an emergency happens, you can, dive into it. And then the other side of me was like, yo, your money is draining. This is wild. And I got convicted so heavy. And I felt God saying, like, who do you think is sustaining you? I was like, I'm out here thinking, oh, it's my job, it's my business. And he basically reminded me, listen, that you have anything is because of me. Have access to do the things that you want to do is because of me, right? And I'm here like crying because I'm like, God, I can't do the things that I used to be able to do. 2-3 years ago, I'm out here flying, doing all these things, paying for people's dinners, going to these places, doing all these things. And, now I'm here building this business and it's growing, but my finances have to be pulled back, right? Out here getting resentful about it. And like, by the way, God still provided for everything I needed, right? So, okay, this year I can only do 4 trips instead of 7. Boo-hoo. Like at some point, this is why I said there's a lot of shame, because it's like, what are you actually complaining about? That you had to tap into your emergency fund. That is what it's for. Emergencies, right? But it hurt. It did. It really did hurt. And then I had to really confront myself. This entrepreneurship journey, it's very confronting, right? You have to look at yourself and see your shortcomings and see where your mindset is actually pretty jagged, and how to heal from it. Because the business side of me is like, okay, let's fix it. And it's like, this is not about fixing, this is about healing. Those are two different things. Fixing is, let me get a solution, let me hire somebody, let me da-da-da. Healing is, let me sit with this feeling and go through it and like feel the weight of it, right? And really understand like, okay, so this is happening. In that same 2025, I decided to pivot my business pretty dramatically. And I don't know if anyone's ever done that, but your audience is like, whoa, what is happening? So you're trying to figure it out. They're trying to figure it out. In that pivot, in that transition, things usually slow down, right? So finances are also slowing down or looking different. So you have to like pay close attention to what that looks like. But yeah, it was a really tough season of just money and money management and money mindset, and really understanding like where I was coming from with a lot of these things when it comes to money and business, and how I was, how people compare themselves to other people? I was comparing myself to my former self. And I was basically grieving that version of me. That version of me that could get up and go as needed. That version of me that like could just, do things that I needed to do and show up for the people that I need to show up for. What I even realized is that part of that was even people pleasing, right? So this season of cutting back, of, reorganizing and reprioritizing, I had to learn how to say no. I had to learn how to budget. I'm not proud of it, but I'm not someone that was ever a budgeter. Budget that was. Like, I was never a budgeting type of girl. And I had to learn how to budget. I downloaded a little budget template from Etsy. I watched a bunch of YouTube videos. I learned how to do it. And what I actually realized about budgeting is that it became very freeing, because I would allocate. If I've allocated $100 to eating out, for instance, and a friend is like, oh, let's go out for dinner, all I need to do is check, how much have I spent out of this 100? If I've spent 40, then I know that I have 60 left. I choose the restaurant based off of that 60, I move. Whereas before, I would have had a lot of anxiety because I'm like, oh, I don't have money. I should be saving. I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be going out. So budgeting actually freed me. And I don't think that I would have ever learned how to budget and understood the value of it if I wasn't feeling so tight, if I hadn't gone through that experience of all these things happening at the same time. So I'm very grateful that I had those mistakes. I don't even know if I would call them mistakes, but just those experiences with my personal finances, because I had to learn a lot. I had to then choose, okay, cool, you can't go on 7 of those trips. 6 of those trips was Kinikon's wedding, somebody's baby shower, somebody's this. Now you have to look around and say, okay, who can I show up for? And like, how can I be honest and open and have those conversations with people? Okay, cool, you can't go on your birthday trip that you normally go on. What can you do instead? Like, literally having to ask these really tough questions. And I know that sounds silly, like tough questions about birthday trip. Like, and even this, I'm like downplaying it. I have one of my friends. She was like, you don't know lack. You never grew up. I was like, no, I don't have the skills to be broke. Let me be honest. I don't have these skills. There was even a point where it started to affect like my self-esteem, which was so nuts to me, because I'm just like, what do you mean the numbers in my bank account are affecting the way that I feel about myself and my worth and my value? It sounded so silly to me, but it started to happen, right? I can't, go to Sephora. I have to go to the drugstore to get makeup. And I'm looking out here gray, ashy, nothing is working. I don't know how to pick the right stuff. So I had to start going to God to specifically ask, like, I need help with this, Lord. I need help with this. Like, I had to go for my daily bread provision, right? And I hear this a lot from entrepreneurs when they first start. They talk about how they see God as provider in this season of building, right? Whereas before, if I'm being honest, I never really saw God as provider because I didn't need to. Everything all was balanced. And then I got into this season and I was like, oh, Lord, if you don't come through, I don't know. Like, if you do not come through, I don't know. I remember last year, I ended up going to Paris, and my siblings and I, we all went, and my siblings basically paid for the trip. They were like, just come, just book your flight, just come. And I booked the flight, and I came, and I think I had like 500 euros to spend for like 6 days. And if you know my siblings, those people are bougie. That 500 was not going to cover one dinner, right? And I remember going into that trip feeling like, oh my goodness, I can't even match up with my siblings. Like, what am I going to da-da-da in my head? What if somebody says something? What if da-da-da? Nobody said anything. Everyone was just like, yeah, come through, let's do that. Like, again, this is my family. We do for each other. We help each other out. But I was in my head the entire time, just anxious. Like, is anybody, like, am I going to be able to show up? Am I going to da-da-da? And it was... I remember leaving that trip and just being like, God, I can't live like this. I can't live in this level of anxiety. It's too much. And that day, I'm literally flying back to Canada from France. And this was around the time like Air Canada was having a strike or something. So Air France was like overbooked. And they basically didn't have space on the flight. And they were like, oh, we need a volunteer to come up and, fly another day, and we'll give you a gift receipt or a voucher, da, da, da. And I went up, and I think they were looking for 9 volunteers, and I was the 9th volunteer. And they were like, oh, so sorry, we can't fly you today, but if we'll put you up in a hotel and we'll give you a voucher. Me, I was thinking, okay, normal meal voucher. They're like, yeah, so we'll give you €600. And I'm like, God, this €500 that I didn't have. He basically just was like, here is a free trip. That to me was one of those seasons where I'm like, God, like, you're showing up, and till tomorrow, anytime I'm like, how is this thing going to balance? How is this thing going to balance? Someone would just come and say, oh, somebody sent me your number, da, 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 da. Here's the money. And I'm like, yo, I wish I can be the person that is able to remember those stories in the time that I need to remember those stories. But unfortunately, I don't always do. So my takeaway to you is try to remember those stories where, God comes through in your finances. But it's been a journey with finances, and it will continue to be a journey with finances. But you need to heal. You need to heal. I'm working with a money coach right now, and her focus is money mindset. And she said you can't grow past the level of your mindset when it comes to money. And you need to heal from past mistakes around money. Or else it'll come and it'll go. It'll literally, like, that there's that meme of that raccoon with a marshmallow, and it's trying to like wash it in the river, and he puts it in and the marshmallow disappears. It'll just be like that. Your money will just be flowing through your hands. And there's a difference between flowing through your hands because you're giving and you're a steward, and there's a difference between flowing through your hands because your life is chaotic and nothing makes sense, right? So my advice with all of this is set up a system, systematize these things, right? I have some business debt that I have to pay right now. Before, I would have been, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. I watched a video. They said, okay, these are the ways to pay down debt: snowball, avalanche, all these different things. I looked at my debts. Okay, which one makes more sense? Downloaded the templates, set up auto pay, and it's going. Now, it's not up to me to make those decisions every single time and feel those negative emotions. Set up a system. I feel like with money and your personal finance, set up your savings, set up your investments, just set it up. Whether or not you have that consistency in your income, just set it up. There's something about setting it up, and then you know that, okay, this is my base level. So whatever it is I'm doing in business, I can have high days, I can have low days, but this is my base level that I need to cover, right? Set it up. That's it. That's all I got to say when it comes to personal finances. Let us take a dilemma. Again, if you want to submit a dilemma, we're going to put the link in the show notes, and you can just ask questions and then we will do our best to answer them. I made a financial mistake in my business and lost $20,000. And now I'm scared to continue with the business because what if I lose again? That is a tough one. Like, I always prepare for these podcast sessions, but I don't ever actually answer the question until I'm live on the mic because I want it to be like authentic and not a scripted answer. But that is a tough one because at that point, sometimes it's not even about the money. It's the fear of losing again. I think one thing that you have to know is that you'll probably lose again, right? It's business. You win some, you lose some. Some strategies are going to make sense and they're going to hit right away, and some strategies are not. So I think there's a little bit of an inevitability. Whoa, that's a hard word. around losing money in business. But what are you going to do about it? Like, how are you going to bounce back, right? What kind of systems do you have? What kind of resilience do you have? What kind of vision do you have? Organizations like Uber, I don't even know if they've ever turned a profit. They've been running for years. All of these tech CEOs and billionaires, their model is loss. Just like 90% of these tech companies, like in their first couple of years, they're using VC money, they're not putting skin in the game. And I know you as an entrepreneur, you're putting your real money into the game, right? So you might lose, but like you kind of need to be okay with losing to have longevity in this game, right? You're not always going to lose. Yeah, you are going to figure it out at some point, right? Entrepreneurship is just a series of experiments, and you're just trying to get to those experiments faster each time. So if an experiment was 1 month last time, maybe it's 3 weeks, maybe it's 2 weeks. You're just getting closer to fine-tuning what works and what doesn't work. That fear is valid. It's valid. I'm not even going to sit here and tell you that it's not valid. $20,000 is not beans. It's not, some entrepreneurs are making that in a month, and it's not an issue for them because they know that next month is going to be something else. And that's the thing. Everybody is not the same. Right? Sometimes you envy some people and you're like, you can't even stand in the level of risk that they're standing in, right? I remember this guy I follow on LinkedIn. We're in similar businesses, coaching, all of that kind of stuff. And he was like, I spent $327,000 last year on ads. I was like, yo, we're not in the same, like... We're not talking about the same thing, right? So how silly would it be for me to compare myself to his? He's spending that on ads, right? And the first year or 2 years of him running ads, he didn't even make money because he didn't know how to do it. Then he went and invested and then learned how to do it. Like, there are levels to this thing, right? So the long roundabout answer to that question is you may lose again. Are you going to be okay with it? How are you going to bounce back? How are you going to be resilient? It's part of the game. Don't take it as a personal failure. It's not a personal failure unless you are not learning, right? If you put money into a bad investment and, it didn't bring out what it is that you wanted to bring out, don't double down. Find something else, or double down and figure out what didn't work, right? If you put money into ads and it didn't work and you want to put money into ads again, how are you going to do it differently this time, right? You can't just keep putting good money to follow chase bad money, right? But yeah, don't be afraid to take a risk. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to invest again. It's not a one size fits all, but also take time to heal, man. As entrepreneurs, I feel like we just ride with the punches of the ups and the downs, and we just keep going, and low-key, we're dealing with trauma, low-key. If you're a Christian, focus on God, figure out what he's asking you to do, figure out what the strategy is, go to him first. But yeah, try again. Okay, so reflection for this week. In what ways do you need to redefine your relationship with your finances when it comes to entrepreneurship? So if you're used to one way of managing your finances or having a relationship with your finances, in what ways do you need to redefine that? For me, that looks like separating business from personal. They're technically separated, of course, because they're in different accounts, different banks even. They're not even the same bank. But mentally separating my business funds versus my personal funds and leaning into abundance. My team will tell you, we're not moving in scarcity, leaning into abundance over scarcity in the way and the choices that we make. But yeah, that's it. That's all I got. I hope it was helpful. This is a very vulnerable episode for me, but I hope it was helpful. just because you go through things with your personal finances does not mean you're in the wrong thing, does not mean that you need to stop, does not mean that you are not doing it well. It just means that there's stuff underneath that you need to redefine and, get help with. Okay, that was a lot. Please like, comment, share with your friends. Put in the comments what your biggest takeaway was. I would love to hear from what you have to say. But yeah, that's it. I will see you in the next episode. Bye. And before I forget, remember that the best is yet to come. See you in the next one.